All right, so get ready because today we are diving deep, way deep into AI home surveillance.
Hmm.
And let me tell you, things are about to get, well, a little unpredictable.
Yeah.
Okay, so picture this, right? Your phone, it buzzes, a notification pops up, but it's not your neighbor, it's not even, a security guard or whatever. It's your AI security system.
Wow.
And the notification, it just says police recommended.
Oh boy.
Right? Kind of creepy. And you're like, what's going on? So you click on the video feed to see what's happening. And it's just the mailman dropping off your Amazon package.
Wow.
Like, talk about a letdown, but also kind of creepy, right? Like, this isn't some episode of Black Mirror. This is real life. And there's this MIT news article that talks about a new study that really gets into all this.
Yeah.
And it is really eye-opening, to say the least.
For sure. And the study actually uses real-life data, like footage straight from those Ring cameras,
Oh, wow.
to see how AI models, like, that famous GPT-4,
Right.
to see how those would react to, like, everyday stuff that happens at our front doors.
Right, like someone bringing you a package or...
Exactly. Unexpected guests, deliveries, the works.
So, okay, break it down for me. What they do in this study, like how'd it work?
So they showed basically a bunch of these Ring videos to these AI models and asked them two questions.
Okay.
The first one, like, is a crime happening? And you'd think,
Easy peasy.
right, like
Yeah.
that's a no-brainer. But then they ask, should we call the police?
Oh.
And that's where things get interesting.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other can of worms.
And, well, the results were a little worrying.
Really? How so?
You'd think these AIs, right, super sophisticated,
Yeah.
would be able to, like, at least tell if there was an actual crime happening.
Right.
But they got it wrong, and a lot.
Really?
And even worse, they were recommending calling the cops for stuff that was totally harmless.
Oh, no, it's like, I'm going to get the SWAT team at my door because my cat wandered into the frame.
Pretty much. And that's not even the half of it.
There's more.
Yeah, the study, it also found this whole other thing called norm inconsistency.
Okay, norm inconsistency. That's a mouthful. What's that all about?
So basically the AI, it's not just making wrong calls, it's applying its own rules differently, even in situations that are super similar.
So, like, one day, the neighbor's kid bringing back my dog is fine.
Right.
But the next day, same thing, and it's calling the cops on a 10-year-old.
Exactly. Super unpredictable, like it's making up the rules as it goes.
That's not, like, reassuring at all.
Right. And this unpredictability, it makes it basically impossible to figure out how these systems even work.
And if we don't know how it works, how can we be sure it's being fair?
Exactly.
Oh, man. Okay, so we've got this AI. It's potentially biased.
Right.
And we have basically no clue how it's coming to its conclusions.
And it's making big decisions.
This is starting to feel less like a security system and more like, I don't know, a digital security blanket with holes in it.
And the holes are everywhere.
Yeah.
And it gets even more complicated because this MIT study, it uncovered another layer to all this.
Oh, no. What now?
It's a big one. Racial bias.
No way. Seriously.
Yeah. They found that these AI models, even though they weren't told anything about, the racial makeup of a neighborhood, they were less likely to recommend police involvement in areas that were mostly white.
Hold on. Wait. You're saying the AI could tell if a neighborhood was predominantly white just by looking at the Ring video? How's that even possible?
It does sound crazy.
Yeah,
huh?
like, are we talking like Minority Report but with algorithms instead of psychics?
Yeah. It's a good example of just how complicated this whole thing gets.
Yeah.
So the researchers think that even without, having direct data about race, the AI is picking up on these little visual cues, right? And unfortunately, in the real world, these cues often line up with a neighborhood's, well, racial and socioeconomic makeup. It's kind of messed up.
Well, okay, so walk me through this. You're saying there's stuff in these videos that makes an AI think, oh, this is a white neighborhood? Like, what kind of stuff?
Think about it, right? Landscaping, different types of architecture, even the cars parked on the street.
Okay, yeah.
These might seem like small details, but they can actually, a lot of the time, line up with, like, bigger societal patterns,
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it seems like the AI, it's even unconsciously making these connections between these visual things and how likely it thinks criminal activity is.
So the AI is basically playing this messed up game of guess the neighborhood based on how the yard looks or whatever.
Right.
And then it uses those guesses to decide how seriously to take, like, a potential threat.
It's wild, right?
Yeah, it's more than wild. It's kind of disturbing.
Yeah, and it shows just how hard it is when we're developing AI because, getting rid of these biases completely, it's almost impossible.
Especially because, like you said, the data, the Ring videos, they already have all these societal biases baked in.
It's true.
It's like, how do you unteach something that's been learned from a textbook that's full of bad stereotypes?
It's a tough one.
Okay, so just to recap, we have this AI.
Yeah.
It might be biased. It might be playing by its own set of rules that change all the time.
Right.
And we don't even know how it's coming to its conclusions.
Yeah, it's a lot, for sure.
It's a lot. This is starting to feel less like home security and more like, I don't know, a digital security blanket, but like one with all these holes in it.
And the implications go way beyond just your front porch, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about AI being used in all kinds of huge decisions, healthcare, loans, even job interviews. If it can mess up something as simple as home security, imagine the potential for things to go wrong in those areas.
Oh, for sure. It could get, I mean, that's a whole other, it's a can of worms. That one, it's more than a can of worms. It's terrifying. And speaking of terrifying thoughts and completely changing gears here, remember that Crime Reads article about visualizing detection?
Oh, yeah, that's a good word.
It feels super relevant to this whole conversation, actually.
Totally. It really makes you think about, like, how we think about detectives,
Right?
whether it's in, books or real life, right?
Yeah.
We usually see them as, like, readers of a crime scene.
Yeah, like Sherlock Holmes looking for clues with his little magnifying glass.
Exactly. But what happens when the detective isn't, a person?
Right.
When it's an AI
Right.
with its own way of thinking and we don't even understand it? How can we visualize that?
That's a great question
Yeah.
because it's like they're trying to take this abstract idea, this thinking process that normally happens in someone's head,
Yeah, like behind closed doors, literally.
and make like give it a shape we can understand.
Exactly. But with AI, it's like that inner world, that mind palace. It's a black box we can't see inside.
We're basically just handing over the magnifying glass, trusting it to know what to look for.
Yeah, and the thing is, it might not even see the world the same way we do.
Right, and we have no idea how or why it comes to its conclusions.
That's the scary part.
And that's what makes this AI thing so much more complicated than just saying, oh, the AI messed up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about like getting the answer right or wrong.
Right.
It's that we can't see how it's working.
The process is a mystery.
Yeah, like we can't question its assumptions, its reasoning, its biases.
You can't interrogate an AI.
Exactly. We could with a human detective, but not with an AI. And this lack of transparency, it changes how we think about truth as well, you know?
Yeah, it's like the AI is living in this whole other reality,
Right.
seeing things we don't, drawing conclusions we wouldn't even think of.
Exactly. And that brings up a really, I think, kind of a freaky question.
What's that?
If the AI is like seeing all this stuff in our neighborhoods that we're totally blind to, does that actually like change what we think of as, true or criminal?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Right. It's like we're looking in this funhouse mirror, seeing these distorted versions of like our own biases. And then we're like, wait, what's real?
And what's even crazier is that we're like seriously considering handing over these huge decisions to this system that might be working in a totally different way than us,
Like who gets surveilled, who gets arrested, who gets convicted. Those are huge deals. We can't just assume the AI is going to get it right, especially when, we just talked about how easily it can get messed up.
Yeah, it's like imagine giving the keys to someone who like learned to drive playing Grand Theft Auto.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, the basics are kind of there, but the real world, totally different.
And the stakes are way higher.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what makes this whole AI and surveillance thing so important to talk about.
Yeah, it's not just about the tech itself.
It's bigger than that.
It's about like what it represents.
The power it has.
Exactly. And how it could change our lives.
It's huge.
Okay, so where do we go from here? I mean, we've talked about some pretty intense stuff. What are people supposed to do with all this?
Honestly. First thing is just being aware. We can't just like bury our heads in the sand when it comes to this AI stuff.
Right. Like we can't just be passive and let it happen.
Yeah, we got to ask questions.
Yeah.
We need to be like, hey, what's going on here? How does this thing even work? We got to demand some transparency from the companies making these systems. And we got to be smart. We got to think critically about what role we want AI to have.
For sure. It's not about being anti-AI.
No, not at all.
It's about being informed, being, engaged.
Being heard.
Yeah, exactly. It's about being able to say, hold on a second, this doesn't seem right.
100%. And we have to remember, right? AI, it's a tool.
That's it.
And like any tool, It could be used in good ways and bad ways.
Like a hammer.
Right. You can build a house,
Yeah.
or you can, do some damage.
Okay, that's a good way to put it.
So it all comes down to how we use AI and what safeguards we put in place to make sure it's not being abused.
So, to wrap things up, dear listener, next time you see, like, a headline about AI, whether it's about self-driving cars or algorithms that predict crime, don't just keep scrolling, okay?
Yeah, stop for a second.
Think about it.
It matters.
What are the good things that could happen? What are the bad things? Because the future of AI, it's not set in stone. We're the ones creating it.
Every choice we make.
Every purchase, every click, it all adds up.
It really does. And that, I think, is something worth thinking about.
Absolutely. Food for thought, for sure.
Until next time.